Mama, welcome to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Gibbs, and this podcast exists to help scholarly mamas like you to achieve your life and academic goals without sacrificing what matters most. Here, we're changing the overwhelm, juggle, struggle narrative around what it means to be a mama on an academic journey to one of empowerment, fulfillment, and purposeful success. So how do we successfully navigate these journeys? Well, first, we need the space to embrace this unique blend. Let's begin by saying yes to creating a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside, because that's when we truly become purposefully whole. So get ready for the most non-traditional, unconventional, and revolutionary approach to PhD motherhood, because one thing I have learned over my many years of experience on this journey is that if you want something different, you have to do something different. But you must be brave enough to think differently first. So, Mama, are you in? Fabulous! Let's begin. These are our journeys of becoming. Hey mamas, welcome back to the podcast. As you know, in last week's episode, we talked about some of the lessons that I picked up on my recent trip abroad to an international conference. And one of the other things that I wanted to share with you is what I'm going to focus on today, which is how to reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood. And so before we actually dive into the discussion about how you can reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood, I wanted to preface this discussion by first considering or maybe addressing the question of why does it even matter? Why should you try to achieve your full potential in scholarly motherhood? Why does that even matter in the first place? And then, what does it actually mean to achieve your full potential in scholarly motherhood? What does that mean to you? What does that mean in the general grand scheme of things? Why does it matter whether you do reach your full potential or not in scholarly motherhood? Why would anyone want to do that? We all have the choice. We all have the choice to pursue our dreams or to not pursue them. We all have the choice to dream big or play small. We all have that choice to make, right? So if you choose to dream big, if you choose to pursue your ambitious dreams, if you choose to really make those ambitions your reality, then one of the first things I would say to this point is you deserve to reach your full potential. You have made a decision to begin this journey. You're navigating a really difficult journey. You're doing it with kids in tow, with a family, with responsibilities, with home life, with marriage, all that stuff in the background, in the midst of this PhD or this academic journey. You deserve to achieve your goals. You deserve to achieve your goals, and you deserve to do that without sacrificing what matters most to you, without having to put family life on hold. And I think that when I think about potential, there are some people who will go on about achievement and how that is really reaching your full potential. And I would say that it is so much more than that. Reaching your full potential in scholarly motherhood is not just about achievement. It's not just about what you are going to accomplish, the accolades you will attain, the recognition, the prestige. It's not just all of that. It is about how you navigate this journey. That is really about what I mean when I say reaching your full potential. How are you going about seeking to achieve these goals? How are you going about seeking to reach the heights of academic success that you are trying to reach? So for me, it is less about the what in terms of the full potential and the achievement, and more about the how and the why. More about how you actually achieve those goals and still be a present mama and still enjoy the simple things in life and still really experience purposeful success and scholarly joy, because that is what matters. Even before the how, the why, right? Why are you doing this journey? Why are you on this path in the first place? You need to get really clear on that. Make sure that that is at the center of everything that you do. You want to be an example for your kids. You want to show them what is possible when you journey with purpose. You want them to believe that they can achieve their dreams as well. And so the why behind this is just as powerful as the how. The what, that's just the bonus of all of this. It really comes down to the how and the why. That is what I mean by reaching your full potential. So as we talk today about reaching full potential in scholarly motherhood, I just wanted you to keep that conceptualization of it in mind, so that when I talk about going after your goals, when I talk about achieving your dreams, I'm talking about doing this in a way that doesn't cost you the family time, the life that you love, the things you enjoy doing, the building of precious memories with your loved ones. That is what I mean by reaching your full potential. So in essence, reaching your full potential is really purposeful success. This is what purposeful success is all about. And going back to this idea of reaching your full potential in scholarly motherhood, one of the things that really strikes me about this, in addition to, of course, what we're going to discuss today, is that a lot of times we don't really fully even understand what our potential is, far less tap into it to actually achieve it. And if you want to achieve purposeful success in scholarly motherhood, one of the things that you really have to get clear on is, what is my potential and how can I achieve that? Because a lot of times we are playing small. We're scared to achieve these ambitious dreams, these ambitious goals that we have. We are scared to achieve them. We are afraid of success. We're making excuses for why we cannot actually reach our full potential. And so in today's episode, I want to talk to you about a lesson that I picked up on my trip about how to reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood. And so let me just give you the backstory to all of this. So my flight was canceled. I had to go a completely different route. In fact, I had to go through the US in order to get back home, which wasn't planned. Anyway, to cut a really long story short, I was on the plane leaving New York to come back to the UK, and for some reason we were on the runway, literally about to, accelerate and take off. And we were told, unfortunately, we have to stay put for a little bit because there are turtles on the runway and they have to be safely removed before we can actually, accelerate and take off. And I couldn't believe that was actually happening. Like, what? Like, that's madness to me. Turtles on the runway. Now, first of all, how did these turtles make it onto the runway? And second of all, how long have they been journeying towards this runway without being noticed, without anyone seeing them and getting them safely out of the way? How have they managed to get this far to the point where they're now, invading essentially the runway and we can't take off? But let me just say that I have nothing against turtles. In fact, I think they're beautiful creatures and I love turtles. I just couldn't figure out and work out in my mind how we ended up in this predicament as we're about to take off. But anyway, this is how to reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood, right? Okay, so the first thing that you must do if you want to reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood is, just like we were on that plane, literally start from a position of rest. You cannot get very far, literally cannot get very far on low fuel, right? You've got to fuel up before you commence your journey. You've got to take a layover if that's necessary and refuel. You cannot reach your full potential and actually take off in your journey of scholarly motherhood if you do not start from a position of rest. We sat on that runway for however long. Even if the turtles didn't invade the runway, we would have still started from a position of rest. As you know, the plane stayed still. We start from a position of rest. And then when it's time, we accelerate and we take off. This is the same thing for Scholarly Motherhood. You must start from a position of rest. That might mean that you are being intentional about taking breaks, resting yourself, really allowing your body to get the rest that it needs in order to face the next phase of your journey, in order to face the next deadline, in order to face the next writing bout, in order to face the next project, the next research study that you're about to do, the next chapter you're about to write. Whatever your next step is, you need to begin from a position of rest. That is how you will reach your full potential in Scholarly Motherhood. So that's the first step, right? Okay. So after we've been sitting there waiting for them to remove these turtles from the runway at the appointed time. Now, obviously, there are lots of planes being navigated on this runway. There's lots of planes landing, lots of different things are happening. The air traffic controllers are doing their job and controlling everything and organizing everything. But what really struck me was that at the appointed time, and this always fascinates me, like how, I know nothing about air traffic control or anything, but I'm always fascinated by how they're able to coordinate all these planes and make sure that we are not crashing into each other, that everybody's taken off at the appointed time, landing at the appointed time. And in fact, fast forward a little bit to the end of that flight. I'll come back to the beginning in a moment, but fast forward to the end of that flight. I remember when we approached Heathrow, we were literally circling and circling and circling for a bit. And that is what I'm talking about. It reminds me that you are not going to take off or you're not going to land if it's not your appointed time. We circled and circled until it was time for us to land, because obviously the air traffic controllers are doing their thing and letting the pilot know it is not yet safe to land. You need to circle a bit until it's time, allow other planes or whatever they were doing to land or take off. When it is your appointed time, you'll be allowed to land. And the same for the takeoff. So we were sitting in this plane waiting for these turtles to be removed. And when it was the appointed time, not sooner, right? When it was the appointed time, we were allowed to accelerate and then take off. Air travel is a timed operation. Each takeoff, each landing has its appointed time. The same is true for your Scholarly Motherhood journey. It doesn't have to happen on anybody else's schedule. When it is your appointed time to accelerate and take off, when it is your appointed time to bring that PhD in for landing, right? You will achieve your full potential. So if you're wondering, how on earth do I reach my full potential in Scholarly Motherhood? I really want you to appreciate the role of timing in all of this. A lot of times we think that we must keep up with other people. We're comparing ourselves to others' journeys and we're looking at others and seeing, oh, look how they're finished before me. I will tell you, among my PhD colleagues, so people who were doing their PhD in my department at the same time as me, I probably was the longest. I probably took the longest to finish my PhD. I had so many people come through that office and finish their PhDs way before me. And there were times, I will not lie to you, there were times when I thought, when is it going to be my time? I couldn't even picture it. I could not picture myself finishing this journey and being one of the people who is at the end. I just couldn't see it a lot of times. And I remember feeling so deflated sometimes by that, because I thought, I've got so many other responsibilities. Look at all these other people. They're finishing their PhD. They don't have to worry about, kids and not having sleep and juggling all the responsibilities at home, and they're able to finish their PhDs in record time. And here I am struggling along, years are piling up, time is ticking along, and I am not yet at that place. In fact, I cannot even picture myself at that place. And so this is just really a reminder to you that your journey of scholarly motherhood is also a timed operation. And that timed operation is very much dependent on your needs, your circumstances, your own time scales. And it doesn't have to compare to anyone else. It doesn't have to be measured against a standard of anyone else's timed operation. When it is your appointed time, not sooner, you will achieve that purposeful success and you will reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood. Okay, so now that we have, we've established that we start from a position of rest, we accept that this is a timed operation and that our purposeful success will come at its appointed time. The third thing that you need to consider when you are thinking about how to reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood is purpose. Being purpose-driven was one of the ways that helped me to reach my full potential in scholarly motherhood. Now, remember, we're on that plane. We are waiting for the appointed time to be able to accelerate, to take off. But once we were given that green light and once we were on our way, accelerating to the point of takeoff, the goal was clear. The path ahead was clear, so no more turtles in the way. The destination was clear. We needed to get up in the air in order to reach our destination. We knew where this flight was headed, and we knew that we were not going to get there unless we took off. So that was clear. Alignment was the assignment. So we knew in order to get where we wanted to go, back to London, we needed to accelerate along this path. We needed to take off and we needed to head in a certain direction. The flight path ahead was clear. Now, the same is true for scholarly motherhood, but you need to be purpose-driven. If you do not have a clear destination, if you do not have a clear goal, if you're not in alignment with the assignment, and if your path isn't clear, your scholarly mama purpose path, which is something that we talk about in my one-on-one coaching, if those things are not clear and you are not purpose-driven, it's going to be really difficult to reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood. And if you believe that this is the purpose of your life, or one of your purposes, I like to say, because we don't actually have one single purpose in life, right? So if this is one of your purposes in life, to achieve this PhD, to get to the end of this journey, and you are purpose-driven, you are literally focused on the goal, your destination is clear, you're aligned to the assignment, and your flight path is clear, you become unstoppable. You literally become unstoppable. And this is one of the things that I realized when I was on that plane and we were accelerating ahead. There wasn't any room for not being aligned. We needed to get up that runway and off into the air. And that is exactly what we did, because that pilot was purpose-driven. That pilot knew exactly the goal, exactly the destination, exactly the path ahead. And that's the path that we took. And that's what allowed us to reach our potential, get up in the air and take off. So now that we have established that this journey is purpose-driven, one of the other things that I think is really essential to help you reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood is that you have to anticipate your success. Oh, mama, this is a deep one. You have to believe that you can achieve this. You have to believe that success can be yours. You have to believe that this is going to be your story, right? Imagine if I was on that plane and the pilot suddenly announced that actually we're going to, put your seatbelts on for takeoff, but actually I'm not quite sure we're going to take off. But just in case we do take off, make sure you have your seatbelts fastened. Just in case we take off, we may not, but we may. So just in case. No. The announcement was seatbelts fastened for takeoff. That's it. Because there was an unwavering belief that we were taking off. There wasn't any room for doubt. There was no room for doubt. If you go back to episode 13 of this podcast, where I talked about how to transform your Scholarly Mama life with this single belief, I really share in that episode about the importance of having that unwavering belief that this journey is not negotiable. This journey is not negotiable. You have to believe that this journey is possible for yourself because you are the pilot of this PhD plane, right? So you need to believe that this flight is possible. This is not for your supervisor to believe. This is not for your colleagues to believe. This is not for your examiners to believe. This is not for your committee to believe. This has to be your belief that you can achieve this goal. And really, my goal here is to show you that it is possible for you to achieve this goal. It doesn't mean it looks the same for you as it did for me because, everybody's journey is different. However, the principle, the belief, the fundamental belief that you can achieve the success is crucial for you to reach your full potential in scholarly motherhood. And by the way, going back to that concept about the appointed time earlier on, this doesn't mean that you have to go at the same pace. So pace and timing are different things. Pace and belief in the fact that this is going to be your anticipated success story, they're different. You may go at a different pace, but it doesn't mean that you do not have the belief. I went at a different pace to everybody else who was around me, right? Everybody else who was doing their PhD in my department, who was finishing their PhD and moving on to postdocs and moving on to other things. And I was still there doing my PhD, still there navigating scholarly motherhood. It didn't mean that I did not have the belief. I held the belief that somewhere, somehow, this outcome will be mine, right? And I knew that it would look different than it was looking for other people. I lived that experience for the whole journey. But I never lost sight of that belief that this was going to be my purposeful success story, right? So you have to anticipate your success. You cannot be a doubtful pilot. You are the pilot of this PhD plane, as I mentioned. You cannot be a doubtful pilot. You have to anticipate your success, believe that it's possible. When I was on that plane, I had the belief, and I wasn't even the pilot of the plane, and I had the belief that once we began that acceleration to start taking off, I was going to be in the air and on my way to London. I never doubted for 1 minute that that was going to be my path. And so, yeah, this point is all about anticipating your success, believing that this is possible for yourself, and allowing that unwavering belief to carry you through all the way to take off, all the way to your full potential in scholarly motherhood. And so the final tip, the final point I want to make on this topic is, and I can talk about this forever and ever, as you know, because, this has been my lived experience of navigating scholarly motherhood and doing this with 3 kids. I began my PhD with 1 son and finished my PhD with 3 sons. And so I know firsthand how difficult it is to believe sometimes that you are actually capable of reaching your full potential. Sometimes, there's so much imposter syndrome and doubt and disbelief that can creep in, and your inner critic sometimes can stop you from actually reaching that full potential. But the final point I want to make on this is that when we were on that plane, as I mentioned, we're accelerating, we're going down the runway, there's nothing in our way, we're, taking ourselves forward. One of the things that hit me was we can't look back, right? We cannot look back. There is no backward travel here. That is not an option. The only thing we all could do as we are fastening our seatbelts, the pilot is taking us down the runway. The only way to go is forward. And it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate what has come before. It doesn't mean that we don't know that we had to sit on that runway for 30 minutes while they cleared turtles from the runway to clear our path. It doesn't mean that we negate all of that. All of that was still in our history and it was still part of our story. But once we committed to moving forward, there was no room for backward travel, right? It was just looking ahead and looking up and on, up and on. And that is, for those of you who know, there's something special about that. Up and on. When you are purpose-driven, when you are on this journey for a reason, when you are very clear on your why, there's no room for backward travel, right? And also to make the point here that even if the journey's tough, right? Growth is still happening. Even if things are not working the way that you want them to, growth is still happening. You are still moving forward. There's still a general direction of travel, and that's forward. And that's really the key thing if you want to reach your full potential. We're not going backwards here, right? We're going forward. We're going forward with purpose. We're going forward with the belief that success is possible for us, despite the fact that we could have all kinds of things in our history, all kinds of things in our story. It doesn't take away from the fact that success can be ours and we can reach our full potential in scholarly motherhood. So, Mama, that is one of my other reflections from the conference travel. I really hope that you can take something away from this and allow it to inspire you, allow it to remind you when you are tempted to forget the power that you have within you to achieve your goals without sacrificing the things that matter to you, without putting your family life on the sideline, still being able to pursue your goals with purpose. Let this be your reminder that this is possible for you. That's all I've got for today, but enjoy the rest of your week and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. As always, I'm sending you lots of love and lots of gratitude. Take care, Mama. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and if you did and you want in on this movement, please head over to mrsmummyphd.com or scholarlymamas.com. If you want to do your PhD well without sacrificing yourself or those you love dearest, then you need your hands on my free training called the PhD with Purpose Maminar. When you join us inside Scholarly Mamas Explore, you'll get access to this free training and so much more. Remember, Mama, these are our journeys of becoming.